Homeowners and business owners who own their properties owe it to themselves to watch this show because today we have with us Suzanne Barba, CPA and Tax Advisor, who has been advising the community of Chester County and nearby for over 20 plus years, helping you save on taxes. So, Suzanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bipin. Nice to be back again.
Yeah, I really appreciate you have been a very integral part of this show, helping our community learn about all they can to save money on taxes.
Yeah, well, that's what I love to do. So it's easy for me to have this conversation and, 30 minutes for me isn't even enough. I can just keep going on with other.
I know. Let us today talk about something that is very near and dear to both of us, which is how to take advantage of home energy improvement credits.
Right.
Whether for a business owner or for a residential homeowner.
Right. That's correct.
So let us get started. Tell us about what kind of benefits are available, and then also tell us about who is Suzanne Barba for some of them who don't know you.
Well, let me start with that. That'll be it. So my name is Suzanne Barba. I am the owner of Suzanne Barba Consulting. I am a CPA. I have a boutique tax practice, which means that limited number of clients, but the clients that I have really fall into two categories: busy professionals and successful entrepreneurs. My background is in public accounting as well as in corporate. I launched this practice 4 years ago and love it. Love bringing my years of experience to a new group of taxpayers so that they could take advantage of some of the things that are out there, whether from a federal or a state perspective. So.
Absolutely. However, you have been been a CPA and a tax advisor for over 20 plus years.
Let's use 20 plus.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. Yes. This is what I've done my whole career. So, and I love it.
Right. Thank you very much, Suzanne, again for coming back on the show. You have guided our community with so many benefits in tax savings right at the start of pandemic.
Yeah, it's been quite a few years, quite exciting years, right?
and that marks a 3-year anniversary of this show in April. So I'm so glad
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're back. So tell us about what changes have been happening and where homeowners and commercial property owners can take advantage of all those benefits.
Sure. So, the Inflation Reduction Act that was signed by President Biden made a number of changes in the energy credit area. So we've had a home energy credit, back to 2006. But, it needed a facelift. Let's put it that way. And that facelift came in the way of the new legislation. So what happened was that now, let me start before. Before, the credit was 10% of what you spent on qualified purchases, and you had a $500 cap on that. And that was a lifetime cap. $500 when you're making improvements to your home really doesn't go very far. So now, effective for 2023 and forward, the cap is now $1,200 a year. And that the credit is $1,200 a year per year. And then it's 30% of what you spend. So, it gives you more opportunity to take a credit on your tax return. And a credit is a direct reduction of taxes that you owe.
Absolutely. So if you are waiting to upgrade your windows or
Mhm.
insulation or upgrade your heating system or
Yeah.
other appliances in the systems in your home, this is the time to take advantage of it.
Yes, I will tell you, I was going to put on a new storm door in 22, but I'm waiting until 23 so I could get the bigger credit. Hmm.
Absolutely. And I would tell all our homeowners and business owners who own those their properties to consult with their tax advisor, or they can
Hmm.
always call you for a free
Yes,
consultation.
that's right. The first consult is always free, and you can make that appointment on my website. And I think Bipin put it down in the ribbon in the bottom. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I have spoken to many of my family and customers and neighbors who wanted advice, and I tell them, Suzanne is one place you can turn to for everything. And
Oh,
you are such an
oh, not
expert in,
everything. I
well,
don't do windows. I don't do windows.
but you can tell them
Yeah.
what tax benefits are there for window changes. That
Yes.
you can do.
And Bipin, with this credit, so right, we talk about replacing your windows, which is a big, big expense.
Oh yeah,
But the credit can also be like some things that are relatively simple, like a home energy audit. Like I've
yeah,
seen, the energy companies offer that in their
yeah,
little
yeah,
flyers.
yeah.
So you get a credit for that. You can get if your your water heater breaks. You know what? When you replace it, you want to look for that Energy Star sticker
Right, right,
so
right.
that you're eligible for the credit again. So it's not just big stuff, right? It's little stuff too.
Yeah. Now, if people have already completed some home improvements and they did not know about this tax credit,
Hmm.
how far can they can go?
Well, it would be if they've already filed their tax return,
Uh-huh.
right? It would mean an amended tax
Oh,
return.
okay, okay.
So, but the credit has been around, for years. So they should, you have to consider, since it would be under the old rules, is
Right,
it
right.
worth it
Yeah,
to
yeah,
amend your return for,
right.
for $500?
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. But going forward, this tax credit is
Hmm.
available. And uh, is it, you mentioned that a lot of tax laws have changed beginning
Hmm.
with 2023.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And and this will be available for any foreseeable years, or
Yes. The credit is scheduled to go through, I think it was 2034, through the end of
oh,
2034. So, right, a good opportunity for planning, right?
right,
If you're thinking, okay, I know I want to replace my windows. So, one thing to keep in mind now that it's an annual $1,200 credit, if you're thinking of replacing your windows, you probably should do it in stages
yeah,
so that you get $1,200 in one year, $1,200 in the next year, and just kind of space it out.
right. So if you're planning multiple projects around the house,
Mhm.
it pays to
Yeah. Yes.
plan it.
Yeah. Definitely. And at 30%, granted you have the overall
Right,
ceiling, but
right,
at 30%, that's not a bad number.
right.
One other thing, I know when we started, we talked about homeowners. So the credit is applicable for a residence. However, you don't have to own that residence as long as you are a resident of the
Okay.
property. So let's say you're a tenant renting a home,
Yeah.
and you're responsible for the upkeep, or you decide that you want to install air conditioning,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? You're eligible for the credit even though you're not the homeowner. So that's kind of different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it, generally, homeowners would be homeowners owners of the rental property would be generally responsible for maintaining systems. However, in some cases where it's a long-term tenant, and if they are they want to take advantage of that, they can.
Yes, yes. And so this doesn't apply to new construction. So if you're building a home, right, and you start putting in new windows, right, because you have to have windows in your new home, you're not going to be eligible for the credit. That's the other caveat that's there.
Right. So and I was just reading up your information. It said components must have a life expectancy of at least 5 years. So
on the big credit, for the $600 credit for
right.
like the windows and things like that, and you would hope that they have a life of at least 5 years, right?
Right.
Not looking to replace them every year. One of the other things is there is the equivalent credit if on the business side. So if you're a contractor and you are, rehabbing a house, you have the opportunity to use a similar credit.
Okay.
And there's also the ability to sell credits. So let's say, I don't know, I'm trying to think. Suppose one party is eligible for the credit. So one thing with a credit is you have to have tax, right? So when you do your return, you have to have tax in order to take the credit to reduce that tax.
Right.
If you don't have tax, right, the credit is lost because you can't carry it forward. It's not a refundable credit. So suppose you're a contractor and, because you're on a cash basis, you wind up with a loss for the year, but right, you paid for, because it's the year you paid for these installations, that you paid for the installation in the year, and you're thinking, this credit is going to go to waste. So what you could do is transfer it to the people who are going to live in the house so that they could take advantage of it. And maybe, sell it. So maybe it's a reduction in the purchase price or something like that. So there is some opportunity there. Granted, you have to do the timing right and have the right set of circumstances, but you have an opportunity for that as well.
Well, that is something very unique opportunity.
And I think also just, as a regular homeowner, right? Thinking, okay, so what do I need to do so that I can take the credit on my return? So today for 2023, for 2024, there's going to be a requirement that there's a number, right, that the manufacturers will include on the product. And that number is what will have to be included when you're doing your tax return. That requirement isn't there for 2023. So, yes, you want to save all your receipts and all the documentation that came with your windows or your, heating system. But, for this year, it's kind of like on an honor system, if you will. Not that I'm encouraging anyone to do something wrong. I'm just saying it's on the honor system.
Right. And sometimes you misplace documents or receipts. And
yes, but so just something that's changing as we go forward. It was interesting. What I like about tax is the fact that I'm always learning something new.
Yeah.
And although I thought I understood the energy tax credit rules, because I was thinking about my storm door and when I was going to use it, I didn't realize insulation counts too. So we had just had a bathroom remodel in October of last year. And as part, it was upstairs on the 3rd floor. So as part of that, they re-insulated that whole attic area. So now, right, granted, it is 22, but that insulation will count for an energy credit. So sometimes especially when someone moves into a home, right, they find that there's a lot of drafts and, so that kind of work you should consider too. Like if you're bulking up the insulation in your house, consider that will be eligible for the credit.
Yeah, and as you said, that amount is applied to the taxes due.
Mm-hmm.
So
Up to $1,200. That's a lot of money.
It is
to get back.
Yeah.
That's a lot of dinners out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am also looking for reviewing this program and using it to the extent available by law, because I have quite a few projects that are pending that could take advantage of this tax credit.
So, just thinking about it, if you have a number of projects, you probably want to
space it out.
But also isolate each project into its own taxpayer, right, with a separate tax ID, so that each taxpayer takes advantage of the credit. So your project becomes a taxpayer.
So I'm not clear about using that, how that works.
So if you are an individual, right, you file your taxes under your Social Security number.
Right.
If you have an unincorporated business, right, so just your own business you do on the side, whether you're a realtor or any other business that you have, that information is part of your personal tax return. It's on Schedule C, and it becomes all part of your 1040. If you have, let's say, a separate business that you organize as a limited liability company, and you get its own tax ID number, you can establish that company for federal and state purposes as a separate taxpayer. So it files its own tax return, separate from you. And that company might be eligible for those credits. So if you had several projects, several different taxpayers, you might be able to take advantage of the credit for each of those projects.
And can that be used at the same address, or?
It goes by it doesn't go, well, the projects have to be at different places, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it can't all be in one place.
Right.
We don't want to do that.
And is that available to business owners who own rental properties, or rental properties fall under that under this tax credit law?
Well, so if it's a rental property, right, it has to be a residence, and someone has to live there. So the the landlord probably can't take advantage of it under the residential rules, because they're not the resident of the property. However, they could, the tenant could take advantage of it, or the landlord could look at the equivalent rules on the commercial side and see what they could take advantage of.
Right. As a property owner, as an investor, there are more options available for taking advantage of under tax laws, depreciation, and all the expenses that you can cover that are not available as a homeowner. So
that's exactly right.
Yeah. And I know we have in the past covered that in detail, and I thank you very much again for keep on educating us and our real estate investor community to take advantage of that.
So maybe a question for you, Bipin, since you're involved in the real estate community, where the housing market went crazy, right, over the last couple of years. So people were, just who needed a home were buying a home without putting a lot of pressure on the seller. So do you find that those buyers, may have bought something that would have been considered, I don't know, a fixer-upper, or maybe not quite as bad as a fixer-upper, but something that had that needed work, and
Right.
that maybe a credit like this would be something that would help them, think about, oh, okay, well, that's like a $1,200 reduction in the price, or
And if you do continue to do improvements under the guidelines of this tax credit law, you can take advantage of this for quite some time.
at least for the next 10 years, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And again, as you said, this is a tax credit, so it carries more weight than just the tax savings.
Than the deduction. So
Deduction. Yeah,
a deduction only gives you value up to your tax rate. So if your tax rate is 12%, well, that's all you're getting is a 12% benefit. Whereas a tax credit, it's dollar for dollar against the taxes that you owe.
So, for example, if you owe $20,000 in taxes, you're taking $1,200 right there,
right off the top.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is not bad.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I will definitely share that with my homeowners, clients who have bought in the last few years during this, and share this information with them so that they will be so happy to hear about it.
Well, this is one of the credits, right? But if someone decides they want to go solar, right, that solar credit was increased too.
Right.
Or if they decide they want an energy efficient car, there's one of those there too. So a lot in that legislation.
We have few guests few viewers commenting on the show.
Oh,
here is Rama. Rama, thank you for joining. These are federal credits and can be used everywhere, anywhere in the US, correct?
They're federal, and yes, it's on your federal return, so it's everywhere in the US.
And our friend Lorraine Ratchford is joining us from Massachusetts. She's originally from New Jersey, so she's asking about these credits. Lorraine, let's hear from Suzanne.
Hi, Lorraine. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So yes, these are federal credits. New Jersey may have something equivalent, but we'd have to look at New Jersey law.
But these are federal credits, so
yeah, irs.gov. If you go to irs.gov, also I believe on my website I have an article that was the basis, right, for this presentation.
Yeah, so Lorraine, we will share that Suzanne's website. It is already actually on the screen here. Let me share that again.
Lorraine, I'm just looking at just to be clear, the various opportunities unique. So the credit is for an individual. So it starts off with a credit on your residence where you make improvements to your residence. What we talked about as an offshoot is the commercial, right? The business side of that credit. So it is a different credit than the one we've been talking about this morning, but it's not called the home energy improvement credit. There's an equivalent credit if you're on the commercial side. Doesn't work exactly the same. And I would say that, you really need to talk to a tax professional to see how that works for you as a taxpayer if you are in business. But really, the focus of this morning was on the credit if you are the homeowner.
And we have discussed again all the benefits that a real estate investor can take advantage of that.
Yeah. We've had that in other shows.
Right. And Lorraine, I will send you a link to that show that we did with Suzanne last year. Suzanne has been providing a lot of great advice on tax planning and investments and all the ways our community can save money on taking advantage of the IRS laws.
Yes.
They are so complex for us to know. That's why we turn to our tax guru. Suzanne Barba,
Thank
who
you.
has been on our show multiple times. She's a celebrity guest and keeps on coming back to advise us on as new things develop.
Yeah, there's a tax
So,
literate.
so
Mhm.
Lorraine, thank you again for joining, and I'll send you a link to her information so you can watch it out. So, Suzanne, a lot of information we covered today,
Mhm. We did.
and it is time to just briefly summarize what we
Mhm.
talked.
Yeah. So
So let's do that. In a minute or so, can you just summarize all this information? And then again, we will put a link to where they can find more information on your website. I'll put that in
thank you.
once we are done.
Yeah. So just to summarize, Bipin, there was the tax legislation that came through, the Inflation Reduction Act, made a lot of changes to credits, especially the energy tax credit. So if you have the energy tax credit has been around. If you had improvements that were made in 2022, you still have a credit available to you. However, it's limited as compared to the credit that is available for 2023 improvements and forward. So now you have the ability to take 30% of the amount that you spent up to $1,200 for the year. And there's different categories that you have to look at underlying that. But you could do that every year. Take that $1,200 credit, which before it was a $500 lifetime credit. So the rules are in effect for until 2032. So, 10 years. There's an opportunity to plan ahead. If you're thinking of new windows or, something big, maybe you want to spread it over several years so you get that credit over several years. It is a non-refundable tax credit. You have to have a tax liability in order to take the credit. And there is an equivalent if you are a contractor. It's called the Energy Efficient Credit, Home Credit for contractors. And then as well, maybe if you don't think the home credit works for you, there's other credits, including, a new credit for energy efficient vehicles too, that you might want to consider.
And you mentioned energy credits, energy audit. That is another
Yeah.
first step in
Yeah.
establishing what you need to get done.
Yeah, sometimes those power companies, I know,
Yeah.
I like they do a little insert in your bill,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and it's like $25 or and
$50 or
right,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you
yeah.
get that, and it's like free because you get the credit.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think there was a lot of great information for our viewers to digest. And Lorraine again is commenting. She is very interested in learning about what we do, and she joins us often. So, Lorraine, thank
Nice.
you again for watching the show. Like, uh, you know, we started this show, as I mentioned earlier, in 2020, just as the pandemic was starting. And Suzanne has been coming to our show to provide guidelines and information on various different programs that are relevant to the community at that point of time. And we bring this show every Saturday at 10 o'clock. So keep watching and join us back again next Saturday at 10 o'clock as we spotlight a local celebrity like Suzanne Barba or a community organization or a local government officials to talk about what programs they are offering that is meant to help the people who live, work, and visit a community.
And kudos to you, Bipin, for doing this for so many years.
Well, I love watching and talking and learning so much at the same, because I have been a part of, I have been a recipient of benefits from small businesses. Small businesses are the lifeline of the community. So they depend on the community, and the community depends on them. I mean, just try finding a help when you go to a big box store.
Yeah.
You are just a number. And if you have a personal relationship like with you or with a small business or a hardware shop or a small contractor, you are not only supporting them, but you are getting the best service you can.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree. Sometimes, so two parts of my business. One part is, right, the successful people that I can help with the tax planning and tax strategy. The other part, because I've been very blessed and very successful in my career, is, the people who are just starting out. And I would put, like I have two daughters, I put them in that category. They're friends, people who are just starting their own businesses that, don't have a lot of money. And so many times when I help them with their taxes, they went to the equivalent of a big box for their tax preparation the year before. And I'm just amazed, like how much they charge them. Like, I was like,
and when you are giving back to the community like you do by providing this educational workshops and seminars and joining me here to provide information to the community, it's a win-win. You never lose value or lose anything by providing information to the public, to the community.
Yeah, happy to do that.
And people will benefit from you, and that is how I'm sure you get a lot of customer referrals. People are happy with you, and they tell.
My whole business has been built on referral.
Right.
Went from one person to another, so that's great.
Yeah,
it is tax season though now.
Yes, and I appreciate you coming in, taking out of your very busy schedule to
That's okay.
Inform and educate the community.
Well, thank you, Lorraine, for your comments too. I appreciate
that. Yeah. So please join us back on next Saturday at 10 o'clock. We go live on Facebook and LinkedIn, and also on some other social media channels like Twitter, YouTube, and we'll be also putting this information on Instagram. And on Facebook, the page is called Life is Good in Chester County, PA. So that is where all the good stuff about Chester County is available. And I thank you again, Suzanne, for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you very, very soon.
Okay. Thank you, Bipin.
And Suzanne, stay on, please.
Yes.